on Inspirational Leadership by Professor Mahadevan. We will start with an invocation. Om Sadgurubhyo Namah. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, everybody. Gladly welcome all of you and Professor Mahadevan to this Center for Consciousness Studies and Inner Transformation series of talks on conscious leadership. We are on the fourth in the series of talks. Center for Consciousness Studies is a new center, just about getting to be 2-year-old, under the Indica Academy umbrella. And CCSIT, that's the acronym for Center for Consciousness Studies and Inner Transformation. CCSIT, we focus on nurturing conscious leaders by using insights and practices from the Vedic wisdom traditions. So we use wisdom from Vedanta, Yoga Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and even extended areas like Natya Shastra, all to develop what we are calling conscious leaders. Conscious leaders are leaders who are able to make well-considered decisions beyond personal likes and dislikes, while being anchored in calmness, compassion, dispassion, and wisdom. We nurture conscious leadership through process of inner transformation of each leader, which will be through a process that is immersive and authentically transformation. And our settings of inner transformation are psychologically very secure and safe, wherein the leaders will find the freedom and courage to delve into themselves and transform themselves. And the larger mandate is also such leaders will inspire and ignite minds of people they lead and will strive for a larger cause. This is what CCSIT is doing. And we blend the Vedic wisdom tradition with modern research in cognitive sciences and management sciences, so that the Sanatana element of Vedic wisdom tradition is brought into a Nitya Nutana application by blending in what are the best available that humanity is having today, whether it's from east or west. Having said that, today's talk is on inspirational leadership based on lessons from Bhagavad Gita. Now, for this, we have with us Professor Mahadevan, who is a professor of operations management at IIM Bangalore. And he has been with IIM Bangalore since 1992. Interestingly, Professor Mahadevan has been always carrying his operations management, operations research track along with his passion for Sanskritam and Samskriti of our great culture. So much so that Professor Mahadevan was invited to be the founding Vice Chancellor of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith when it was being set up. In fact, he took a secondment from IIM Bangalore, went to Kochi where the CVV was set up, and after setting it up and nurturing it in the initial years and handing over to able hands, he has moved back to IIM Bangalore. Apart from his academic thing, Professor Mahadevan has been holding administrative positions both at IIM Bangalore as Dean of Administration. Then he was in the governing body of IIM Bangalore. He's a board member of IIM Kashipur, IIT Madras, and Kendriya Vidyalaya Sanghatan. He also has been a board member of Indian Oil Corporation and currently is a international advice in the International Advisory Board of California Management of Review. Professor has been a visiting scholar to Amos Tuck School of Business Administration at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. And he balances it with his contribution to the NGO sector as a board of trustee of many NGOs. So Professor Mahadevan's experience has teaching, research, consulting, and academic administration. And Professor has published in many international leading journals. His research interests include supply chain management in e-markets and e-auction, and design of services with customer co-creation of value. And his research interest also includes management paradigms from Bhagavad Gita and other ancient Indic wisdom traditions. He has been bestowed with multiple awards, a couple of them being ICFI Best Teacher Award by the Association of Indian Management Schools in 2005. And he was one among the 40 nominated globally for Economic Intelligence Unit's Business Professor of the Year Award for 2012. Professor has published 2 books in his core area, Operations Management Theory and Practice, which is a bestseller. And his new book in the area is The New Manufacturing Architecture, with manufacturing undergoing tremendous revolution with Industry 4.0 and all that. So he has published on the cutting edge of manufacturing. And his latest work that is dear to us is Introduction to Indian Knowledge System, Concepts and Application. It's being published by Prentice Hall India Learning. And as I mentioned earlier, Professor brings in his contemporary administrative academic practice with his passion and commitment for Sanskritam and Sanskriti. With this introduction, I welcome Professor Mahadevan to enlighten us on inspirational leadership with lessons that is being drawn from Bhagavad Gita. Over to you, Professor Mahadevan.
Thank you, Sai Sambatji. It's a pleasure to be back and spend some time in this very nice forum. Today I have chosen to talk about inspirational leadership. I hope my screen is visible. I hope things are fine. Audio, video, everything is fine, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So I would take maybe half an hour, 40 minutes to sort of share a few thoughts. This is a very wide area. Both Gita is very, profound and very has a wide canvas, as well as the notion of leadership. So therefore, let me very quickly put together a few thoughts which would make things a little easier for us to reflect on and so on. So I have titled it as Inspirational Leadership. As we all know, leadership has been is always a very important thing for all of us, irrespective of the kind of organizations, because I think organizations need to be led and so on. But the traditional dominant thinking, if we were to summarize it in 2 quick sort of bullets, of what we think of leadership is one keyword that comes to my mind is responsibility and ownership. People always associate leadership with the responsibility to take decisions, freedom to execute things, and the responsibility is entirely with the leader. It's a my responsibility kind of a feeling to get the task done, monitor subordinates, etc., etc. This is one keyword which I can think of. The second keyword I can think of is it's all about position, power, and endowment of resources. This is another aspect of leadership. Leadership provides a certain authority. That's what people think, and so therefore they can use that. They have resources at their disposal. So these are some of the keywords that keep coming to our mind dominantly when you think of leadership. This leadership, this whole idea of leadership appears to me, at least as a professor of management, continuous work in progress. Because 35 years back, when I was a student of management, we were taught certain ideas about leadership. But I find that we have been adding more and more and more of new terms, new ideas, new ways to define and articulate what a good leadership is, and so on. It merely shows that we have still not reached the last word. I think it is a work in progress. So let me very quickly tell you, in this journey of finding newer and newer dimensions of leadership, what is changing? Because that's very important for us to understand. The first thing is the old leadership perspectives that we had. Somewhere, if you scratch it a little and go deep, what you find is it appeared as though it was deeply individualistic. I have put three sort of jargons here. One way to define leadership is what is called leader-follower model. Here is a leader, he knows everything. He is here to lead. So there are a lot of subordinates who will follow. Whatever he says, we need to sort of take it and then move on. That kind of sort of a perspective you will find in older leadership understanding and theories and so on. The second dimension was leadership was what was, I would say, even yes, to a large extent is many of the decisions, many of the ways decisions are made, problems are understood and articulated and all that, somewhere are riding dominantly on an economic angle, which is sort of cost benefit. For every decision and for every kind of a leadership action, somewhere there is this notion of what is the cost versus benefit. That seems to be an overriding sort of basis on which we were, discharging our own leadership. We were judging leadership also, which may be required. The question is whether it is entirely required to go that way, may be a question. Then, of course, leadership was also thought as setting goals, providing direction. This follows from the leader-follower model. So here is a person at the top who has to set goals, and therefore others have to follow it, provide directions and support and so on. So the older theories were emphasizing these aspects greatly. And so to a large extent, people thought that's the way to go about leadership. But in the last perhaps 10, 12 years, maybe 15 years, I would say, we have been adding more and more into this understanding of leadership. And there have been several new theories. I'm just throwing a bunch of jargons at you, just to tell you that the conversation seems to be changing. There are terms like servant leadership, transformational leadership. Authenticity is being thought about today as important, so therefore authentic, ethical leadership, and so on. Spiritual leadership. So all that I'm trying to say is leadership as it was understood and that is largely practiced today, followed from a deeply individualistic kind of an understanding. Now there seems to be a trend of sort of moving towards in enlarging this whole notion of what is leadership, what actually drives good leadership actions and initiatives, seems to be going through a bit of a change. That's what I wanted to. So against this background, there are a few things which are very clear to us. I think we have little doubt on that. Leaders have great opportunity to make or break organization. Either ways can happen. Leaders can actually do good things or can tear the ethical and moral fabric of an organization. Therefore, this notion of leadership continues to be important. The notion of what drives leadership has been constantly an issue of serious nature, both for practice and theory, because of the impactful nature of what leadership can do to organizations. Therefore, there are these questions: why do we have continued leadership crises in organizations and governance? Every now and then we keep hearing, where are the great leaders? What are things? What are some of the things which make leaders inspirational, and so on? So while talking about this, there is a term in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita which comes to my mind. The term is Raja Rishi. There is a very nice term called Raja Rishi, which Sri Krishna uses in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. So this whole notion of Raja Rishi is very interesting because it is a very interesting combination of two terms, Raja and Rishi. Raja aso Rishishcha Raja Rishi. So that is the samasa there actually. So it looks like, if you look at that term, it looks like somebody must be like a Raja, which is a signal of endowment of power, a signal of endowment of ability, a mandate to do things and so on. That is the Raja part. Of course, there is a Rishi part. The Rishi talks about a sense of detached attachment to doing things, a spiritual angle to what is being attempted at. So therefore, I would leave this. I'm not going to talk more about Raja Rishi, but I think as leaders, we must really understand the meaning of this word Raja Rishi. Why do you put a spiritual and a term which signals endowment and disposal of resources and mandate, and a term which signals spirituality, all that, into a single and call Raja Rishi? I think I would leave that thought. But all that I'm saying is it only shows that our traditional perspectives on leadership may throw some light to us, and even to analyze the word Raja Rishi, which we should do on some other day, or somebody must look at it more seriously, can throw some more ideas on what is this leadership that we are talking about. Now, before talking about inspirational leadership, I am better off by showing a very short video, and we'll just see this. It's just a 190 seconds video, maybe 2 minutes, and then we'll take it from there.
सर, आपके लिए उस पार कार का इंतजाम किया है सर। आइए सर। चल चल। पकड़ के उठो, पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो। I hate this country. तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले। लगा हाथ के सूरज सुबह निकाला करे, हथेलियों में भरे धूप और उछाला करे। ओ लगा हाथ के सूरज सुबह निकाला करे, हथेलियों में भरे धूप और उछाल करे। उफक पे पाँव रखो और चलो पकड़ के चलो, उफक पे पाँव रखो और चलो पकड़ के चलो। फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो, फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो। तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले,
is a very short 2 minutes video, because nothing can help me drive the point of what is inspirational leadership. So let us take this video a little bit. And if you look at this video, I find there are 3 categories of potential leaders here. 3 categories, I would say, because the leader only gives examples. For example, there was this policeman who was sleeping on the car, and there are a lot of such people in our organizations. I call them as visiting card leaders, because they have a visiting card which announces they are leaders actually. Whether they bring leadership, we may not know, but certainly they are supposedly leaders. So I call them as visiting card leaders. Then, of course, there was this politician who you saw in the video, who had to, get his things done. And so he he has a few followers with him. They go and meet somebody and maybe whatever he wanted to transact and so on. So like that, there are leaders for a living. They may not have any inspiration of a larger variety, or not very often, or they have their own personal reasons why they want to play a leadership role and so on. Then, whenever I showed this video and asked people, invariably, all of them will say the small boy is the leader. I asked them, who is the leader in this video? And 100% of the times they will say the small boy is the video. In the video is the leader. So that actually brings a question in front of us. Why is this boy a leader? What is so special about this boy, and why is he a leader that all of us seem to possibly think he is the leader? So that brings us a little bit of thinking. First of all, I asked them, I keep asking people, why do you think this boy is a leader? And they say, he was really inspirational, and therefore he was able to attract everyone to the cause, which was traffic is blocked and people are going through a lot of trouble. So that big trunk needs to be removed. Therefore, that cause, he was a magnet. He was able to make others attract towards that. But as we saw in the video, so people say that is why he was truly inspirational. Then it brings us a question: what makes things inspirational? Are there some sort of attributes which make a certain action inspirational? Otherwise, we keep engaging in a lot of things in our life. Not all of them are inspirational. Therefore, are there some attributes which make things inspirational is a second question. And with that question, if we step into this video, then what you find are at least 2 things that you can see in this video. First of all, this boy did not mind taking what I call it as big risks. So much so to say, a 30 kilograms weighing boy took the risk to go and remove perhaps 3,000 kilograms trunk from the middle of the road, which is impossible. Impossible itself is a mild word actually. But then he decided, I don't know why he decided, he responded to the situation spontaneously. So one attribute that you see here is ability of people to respond to situations spontaneously. To put it in a slightly different way, I am part of a situation. I can, respond. I will be able to respond. I will put the best foot forward, and I will contribute the best way I can do for whatever is the problem at hand. That's a kind of approach perhaps this boy has taken. Little did he think that others may come, may not come. It is, in management, we teach a lot on risks. So much so that, people, unlike some entrepreneurs, these management graduates from many of our institutions, they don't take too much risk because we have infested their mind with so much of risk aversiveness. Whereas people are risk aversive, they are very less inspirational. And one has to take risks for a good cause. The cause was very good here. You can't take risks for some wrong reasons and so on. The second thing which comes out very nicely in this video is coming to think of it, this boy was least affected. He was just walking. He could have walked home and, maybe it would have been a little wet, but at least he would have gone home. He's not stranded in the middle of the road. So therefore, this idea that we have to resolve this traffic jam on account of this huge trunk fallen in the middle of the road is something which will not benefit him by any ways. Again, in management today, we somehow knowingly, unknowingly, intentionally, otherwise, whichever way you call it, we somehow inject this idea that every decision, I earlier alluded to a point of cost benefit in one of my earlier slides. So there is this strong notion of what is in it for me. Again, it appears that if we are able to loosen our vice-like grip on what is in it for me, the chances of doing things which can become inspirational perhaps can probably increase. That's what this small little video seems to suggest to us. The question is, how do we do this? Are there ways by which we can do this? How do we understand we are doing it? We are well equipped on this road. This is where we can, turn towards some of the scriptures which have a lot of ideas on that, and we will see a little bit from Bhagavad Gita. But before doing it, I will just introduce one of those 12 leadership bullets which I showed there. Jim Collins came with a level 5 leadership in his book called Good to Great. This book was about good companies which became great companies after some time. And so he was trying to, and in fact, from a certain position, which he called it as good, some companies went up. So he called them as great companies. And some companies actually performance dipped. He called them as failed companies. So in this book, he was analyzing what are the attributes of the great companies and the failed companies on many parameters. One of them happened to be leadership. And since we are talking about leadership, I thought I will bring that. So what you see here are some interesting observations in the book. Jim Collins says this level 5 leadership, which I see to be very close to this inspirational leadership, which I'm talking about for many reasons. He says leaders had a paradoxical blend of personal humility and intense professional will. This humility is a very important element of inspirational leadership also. So how do you develop that sense of humility? Because somewhere the ego comes in and little achievement, just catapults the people's ego to levels which make sometimes things difficult. Channel their ego needs away from themselves into a larger goal of building a great company. These are some of the things that he talks about in his level 5 leadership. Ambition is not themselves. It's about the institution. So this sense of a certain selfishness, ego, all these have to sort of melt. Only when these things melt, it appears that some great, possibilities of inspirational leadership do happen. He also talked about what is called window and mirror approach, which is very interesting. What he says is, if a leader leads a certain initiative and the initiative is become a runaway success, then Jim Collins says the leaders open the window and then look out. Essentially meaning saying, who is going to take the credit? The credit is not mine. It's all my other people with whom I was actually working. On the other hand, if the initiative failed, then these leaders go in front of a full-size mirror and look at their image, saying, thereby trying to suggest that when failures happen, the leaders take complete responsibility. When success happens, they say it's not mine, it's all because of. That's a very larger idea of great leadership, actually. There are some personal characteristics also, he talked about having unwavering faith, religious belief, inner development, etc., etc. All these are actually matters for great discussion in our scriptures. Bhagavad Gita is one of them. So therefore, one can actually look for how these things happen. For example, inner development. What is this inner development? How does inner development happen? What kind of things that I have to practice so that this inner development really happens? I have to use an Indian word for it. Vyaktitva vikasa, the blossoming of the personality within. How does it happen? And what small little practices that I should be conscious of and then do? These are things which we see significantly described in our scriptures and so on. So let me very quickly touch on some of them. So basically, intense humility and will, how do we understand that if somebody had practiced this, had imbibed these ideas, what kind of a leader he would be? Bhagavad Gita gives a good answer to that. We will see that. How do I develop this window and mirror approach? You need a lot of magnanimity to do it. And the only way you can do it, going from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita, is you have to do these things. You have to develop a great sense of mental equipoise. We have to outgrow what is in it for me. And we have to deeply appreciate and understand what is called the value of mutual dependence and practice it as a way of life. Such leaders can actually become inspirational in some ways. Of course, on inner development, there are a whole lot of things that are being talked about in our Eastern literature. One can lay our hands in terms of authenticity and values. Chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, you have a lot of ideas on these things. All of Gita is anyway like that. Understanding oneself more clearly, the whole psychological construct of individual. So many things are to be understood to go there. So I'll touch on the first two bullets a little bit. Now, somebody has intense humility and professional will. How does that leader actually behave? That's one question that we may actually want to ask. And this shloka beautifully explains that. This is in Bhakti Yoga. It says, Yasmat no advijate lokah, lokat na advijate chayah, harsha marsha bayod vegaihi, muktaha yaha sacha me priyah. He is very close to me, who is able to have these attributes, is what Krishna is saying. What he says, Yasmat. Yasmat means from somebody else or from something else, which means from the world. Na advijate lokah. Or these people, loka is the people. People are not afraid of him. Who? The leader. Lokat na udvijate chayah. The leader is also not afraid of the people around him. So leader not being afraid of people around him is quite common. I have the power, I have the authority, I can do it. Think about the other possibility. The subordinates, the people in the system are also not afraid of the leader. That giving that kind of an impression, giving that kind of a confidence is a great indicator that a person has intense humility and professional will. Otherwise, these things don't happen at all. Only when such people have that, they will be able to provide that kind of a platform in which the organization flourishes through the people and so on. So I am not afraid of others. Others are also not afraid of me. It's a very delicate balancing of how these things happen. That's what Sri Krishna is saying in this particular shloka. Now, there is an issue which Krishna talked a great deal in Bhagavad Gita, is this whole idea of equanimity. What we call in the Indian scriptures as titiksha. Shankaracharya in his Viveka Chudamani, he says, Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilapa rahitam sa titiksha. He gave a beautiful definition. He says, Sahanam sarva dukkhanam. When bad things happen, we should be able to, handle it. Apratikara purvakam, without any support or, counter effect on responding and so on. Chinta vilaparahitam. We get into all kinds of thought. Why did it happen to you? Such people are very difficult to even handle any situations in life, both professional and personal. So people who are able to transgress all of that is called titiksha, is what Shankaracharya says. And you see a very detailed explanation of that in Gita, so many chapters. Even in the previous shloka, it was there in the second line. Harsha, Amarsha, Udvega, and all that. Look at this. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya. Sitoshna sukha dukkataha agama paino anityaha tam titiksha svabharata. He says, as long as our sensory organs are in contact with the outside world, sparsh is the touch, right? The matras are these panchatanmatras through which our sense organs actually get in touch with the outside world. He says, Sri Krishna says, it will blow hot and cold, Sita and Ushna, Sukha and Dukkha. Sometimes it is good, sometimes it is not good. Sometimes it is positive, sometimes it is not positive. Sometimes it is success, sometimes it is failure. Sometimes it is likable, sometimes it is not likable. One can write a dictionary of dualities like this: positive, negative, up, down, like, I don't like, success, failure, hot, cold, sukha, dukkha, all that kind of things. He says a leader will constantly have to face these pairs of opposites. Tam titikshasva bharata. Please understand, Arjuna, you are also going through a very similar kind of a problem. If you do not develop a certain mental strength with which you are able to handle these pairs of opposites, which will be constantly thrown at you, agamapainaha, they keep coming all the time, but they are temporary. They are not going to stay forever. We have developed that frame of mind, which is called titiksha. In English, you can call it as mental equipoise or equanimity and so on. And, in the same chapter, he even gives a beautiful definition for yoga. He says, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tektva dhananjaya. Don't get too attached. Step back a little bit and then engage in work. If you do that, siddha asiddha yoho, sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't succeed. Sama bhutva, take both of them equally. And then he says, samatvam yoga uchyate. Developing that sense of equanimity is indeed yoga. That's what Krishna is developing, giving a definition here. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Develop that sense of equanimity. This is going to be a great, skill that you have when you occupy leadership positions. Looks like that's what he is saying again and again to Arjuna. This is again a very beautiful sloka here. It says, Sukha dukkhe samaya kritva, labha labho jaya jayo, tatho yuddhaya yujyasva, naivam papam avapsesi. Sukhe and dukkhe, sometimes it is sukha, sometimes it is dukkha, treat it equally. Labha and alabha, sometimes it is benefit, sometimes it is not benefit. Jaya and ajaya, sometimes it is success, sometimes it is failure. And in all these three pairs of opposites, Atho yuddhaya yujyasva, engage in war by treating all these three equally, then you will be able to do a great job of what you are doing, is what you are saying. There is a great management concept buried here. Look at here, yuddha. Yuddha is the activity that is being talked about in this shloka. Tato yuddhaya yujyasva. Every activity must result in an outcome. That can be jaya or ajaya. The outcome is jaya or ajaya. You completed the task successfully or you did not complete the task successfully. Take a surgeon. The surgeon actually performs an operation. The operation is successful. But that is not the story. Sometimes operation is not successful, but sometimes operation is successful. But then there is something called assessment. Sometimes the patient dies after an operation. Therefore, mere outcome does not tell us anything. You assess it and see, did it reach the desired benefit at the end of the day? That is the labha and alabha. And out of all that, you get the feeling that you are happy or unhappy. So every activity will throw three pairs of opposites. And Krishna is saying, you must develop equanimity in all these three layers. Then naivam papam avapsesi. Whatever you do will not even taint you, will not affect you in any ways. You will actually go and then do things which are really very nice and very successful and so on. So this equanimity is a very, very important principle. If somebody develops a deep sense of equanimity, then this window and mirror will become a way of life. Because they can take things. There's a lot of grace with which they will be able to take, and a lot of inner strength they will be able to commit their resources and see what happens and so on. So this idea is spoken in several places. I'm going to go into all of them. Just I want to tell you that there is a repeated reference to the samatva bhava. Krishna is emphasizing on this greatly in Bhagavad Gita, and to me personally, this seems to be the most important raw material for being a great leader, being a great inspirational leader, and so on. Because great things are not achieved through excitement at all. We have to have a balance of mind. It's all about not a sensory input should be immediately responded with a motor output. That's not leadership. That's not even a cultured behavior is all about. It's all about physical homeostasis. I mean, so many things can happen. Things can get very adversarial. Things, even after putting the best foot forward, it can be an utter failure sometimes. Are you able to take it? Are you able to live with that kind of a reality of life? This is what Titiksha is all about. So it's all about handling the world around us, also handling oneself, because it's all about handling oneself. This was the problem Arjuna went through. If you read chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, what you find is a great warrior just collapses. He says, I am Ashastrapani, Dhritarashtra, Dhartarashtras are Shastrapanaya. They have all the, Shastras in their hand. If they, kill me in the battlefield, Kshemataram Bhaved. Nothing is better than that. He went to that level. He could not, handle these adverse things that people face. The equanimity was something which he was missing. That's why Sri Krishna talked about it to a large extent in Gita. Right from chapter 2 up to chapter 18, you find repeated references to this. So this is a very important idea. The other thing which Krishna also talks about in many places, but I will just take one shloka to tell you what is happening. He says, Name partasi kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana na anavaptam avaptavyam vartayeva cha karmani. He says, Name partasi kartavyam. Hey Partha, I have actually in these three worlds, trishu lokeshu, in these three worlds, there is nothing that I need to achieve. I have achieved everything. There is nothing left to be gained. Still vartayeva cha karmani. Still I will actually be in the thick of work. This is the heights of what is called outgrowing what is in it for me. I don't have to get benefited, but I am part of a society. I have to make a difference to this place. Such responses are hugely inspirational. That's what the boy did. The boy did not get affected by any stretch of imagination by a huge trunk of the tree in the middle of the road. But then he spontaneously felt that this situation needs a solution. This must be sorted out. And therefore, he just went there and, just said, although it appeared very foolish, he started shaking the trunk, thinking that, it can be moved to one place. But because of an inspirational behavior, that becomes the magnet for a lot of people. So this outgrowing what is in it for me will be a great way by which you can inspire a lot of people to whatever cause that we choose. We can, of course, we must choose the right cause. And for that right cause, we should be very, take out this what is in it for me. That is a great opportunity to inspire people around us and take them along with us and achieve great things in whatever we actually want. That's what this shloka, there are many, but I thought I will just point this with that. So if people start saying, I will start loosening my grip on this, what is in it for me, what will happen? Risk-taking ability will dramatically change. People will be ready to take risks because this what is in it for me is not conditioning them, because failures don't affect them that easily. Not that they will fail every now and then, but then not to worried about failure, they will put the best foot forward. And that's how the discovering the joy of work will be possible. And how to develop this attitude? Gita is full of those ideas. I don't have time to talk about it, but certainly the whole idea of karma yoga and some fundamental axioms of work, which Sri Krishna has put in chapter 3 and 2, gives us good ideas, good opportunity to reflect and develop this attitude of how do I outgrow this, what is in it for me. So this is another important element of being inspirational. Third element, being inspirational, which I would like to bring to your attention, is about mutual dependence. This is extremely important. Great leaders understand that. Look at this shloka, Devan bhavayata anena, te deva bhavayantuvaha, parasparam bhavayantaha, shreyaha param avapsita. He says the devas here, actually, contextually it comes in a discussion on yajna. So deva is nothing but these natural forces. The water, the fire, the wind and all that. They will actually bless you if you are able to, be very conducive with them, which means we don't do all this nonsense that we are doing. We have actually drilled a hole in ozone layer now. With our technology, we are able to drill a hole in ozone layer. That's not a great idea, but we have done it. That's what it means. If you can coexist with the devas will actually bless us. Second line is very axiomatic. It says, parasparam bhavayantaha. Those who understand this notion of paraspara bhava or mutual dependence, what will happen? Shreyaha param avapsyata. They will reach the pinnacle of prosperity. Now, I have put 4 examples below to just tell you how important this principle is. See, boss and subordinates, in a narrow confine of leadership, people must understand that, this mutual dependence is very important. Government and society, civil society must understand, government must understand that civil society cannot be taken for granted. In this country, the political developments that has happened in the last 10 years is on account of government taking the civil society for granted. That's not done. Nature and man. 2013, in a place called, Kedarnath, the clock was wound by about 150 years in about 3 hours. Flash floods came and sorted out everything. So we need to actually understand we have a cardinal principle of mutual dependence between man and nature. And if you go and ask particle physicists, they will say there is a mutual dependence between living and non-living entities. They have gone up to subatomic particle level and they have understood this web of life and interconnectedness and mutual dependence and so on. I think this is again a very important principle to make leadership truly inspirational. I will stop here. I would only want to conclude by saying that developing humility, intense professional will and humility, developing titiksha, mental equipoise, and understanding these mutual dependence, all these are extremely important aspects of being inspirational. And certainly, all these will help us leave behind an impact. That's what leadership is all about. We should make an impact and then go. Which must be talked about. We talk about Shankaracharya after 1,500 years, simply because the kind of impact he made. So I think that's what inspirational leadership is all about. And these are some of the ideas I thought I will share with you from Gita. Thank you for this opportunity. Sampathji, I think we can have a little QA, a little bit of time we can spend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahadevanji. I must say, an inspirational and inspired presentation on inspirational leadership. The way you have distilled out some of the key parts and connecting to level 5 leadership, and the way you have taken us through the sheer depth that Gita offers in such understanding such a important thing as leadership is very, very illuminating. Let me look at Q&A if there is any.
I would like to ask a question. Madhavji, I am exploring this concept of Lokasangraha, primarily because I am now a social entrepreneur. Primarily, most of my time is focused on the kind of work that I'm doing. And my desire is to motivate more entrepreneurs like me to simultaneously focus on a larger cause than their existing work. So supposing somebody is a steel trader, for example, or a coal trader, or any industrialist, or an investment banker who is dealing with forex derivatives. Right? Now that's their job, and that job they are doing it with nishkama karma, with a karmic attitude of Ishvara Arpana Prasada Bhavana. That attitude is there to that activity that they're doing. But while they're doing that, how can they inculcate the aspect of Lokasangraha in their in as a part of their practice? This is important because oftentimes when I speak to my friends, they point out saying that, look, you have exited, a couple of ventures, and now you are. So it's a linear thing that there is a progress. You have exited, and now you're focused on Lokasangraha. But for us to simultaneously inculcate Lokasangraha in our life, how do we do that? And what is the mechanism by which we inculcate that? So this is something which I'm fascinated with, because I truly believe, I mean, because I'm an entrepreneur and there is a bias, but I believe the transformation of the society and the revival of our heritage will not happen because of scholars, will not happen because of the political class. It will happen because of entrepreneurs. Because it is only entrepreneurs who know, who are able to bring about that risk-taking ability and put their intent and the resources to work. And my endeavor is to bring more entrepreneurs into this space. Because typically they're now used to saying that, okay, we'll build a hospital, we'll do a school. But whereas a cultural lokasangraha aspect is a very subtle aspect, it's not a material thing. So this is a challenge that I am actually personally facing. I wanted your because
so
I
it's a very, very nice, very subtle and a very deep sort of question and the thought. So there are three things to it. I see it as a three-stage journey. Some might start early, and there's no rule that somebody must start it only at the age of 50 or 60. But I see a three-stage journey to this whole process that you are describing, which is very important. I agree with you. First thing is we all approach work and life as two separate compartments. This is the starter. And it is possible that a good number of us end our life with that understanding that there are two compartments. One is called work and another is called life. So all that you said, I will be very dharmic in my work. And meaning I would do what needs to be done in a very moral and ethical sense of the term, I would say. But still, I'll end up this life saying that work is a separate compartment and, the larger life is a separate compartment. So this is the first trap. And as I told you, a lot of people may end up their life there. So, so the question now is, how do we transition? So there is a second stage. I think the second stage, which all of us, including those promising entrepreneurs that you are talking about, I think the first realization that must happen is that work is part of a larger principle of the existence of I. This consciousness is finding itself in what called one compartment called work, but all these compartments are interrelated. This is the important transition that has to happen. Moment that transition happens, then it opens up. It is as though a room opens some 5 doors at the same time. And we have a choice to walk through this door and come back into the room, walk through the other door. And so I think this is the second transition that must happen. That work and life, meaning part of society, personal life, professional life, and social life, whatever we may want to call it, they are all actually a single compartment in which there are a few puzzles. That thinking first makes this dramatic, and we are ready. Moment, that's a second layer. So in order for that to happen, I think these scriptures expose us to those ideas a bit at a time and so on. Therefore, I think there's a lot of value in this kind of thing. Then the third thing that would have to happen is the third layer, which will substantiate this thinking. So now I understand, no, it's not work alone. It's not work plus this in compartments. Moment I start this journey of how do I weave them into a single piece, that question starts happening slowly in our mind. I'm sure we go through those kind of ideas in our mind. Then 2 important things have to come as a layer 3. One is a fantastic understanding of this whole notion of dharma. Because dharma is dharana dharma ityaho. It's all about anything that I do which is sustained in the large. So the Loka Sangraha now squarely comes and sits there. Anything that is sustained in a larger sense of the term is alone dharma. And that including whether I buy my vegetables in a plastic bag, everywhere I will start looking at this idea very deeply. Or I do this work, or I do Loka Sangraha with this, or why do I do Loka Sangraha, and so on. So I think the notion of dharma must capture us. And a great sense of spirituality must pervade into us. That is the axis of interconnectedness. This Loka Sangraha happens when there is this axis of interconnectedness which connects this. There is a common thread which puts all of us together and a larger force which weaves us together. I think these 3 layers must happen parallelly. But I would certainly tell you, Hariji, I think the greatest transition required is to understand these are not separate components. Once we have done it has started melting. So it's a question of, I mean, that's what I feel actually.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's true. The problem is that everybody's looking for how to kind of books. We are so now, last 25 years, all the management books. In fact, even the book by Jim Collins that you rightly quoted is, it has 3 sections and each section has got these 3 elements. So all the leaders are now used to a how-to book. and oftentimes the inner transformation and the points that you're talking about cannot, it's a question of switch in the attitude. And then after a point, this question itself will not arise.
Yes.
Will melt, like what you said. And that's
so
the challenge.
The challenge, the challenge with this, how to sort of what you are saying, I'm also thinking about it. I have not progressed much, honestly, I must tell you. But it is, see, the world outside and world inside are 2 different cups of tea. The how-to part is a lot more easier on the world outside. And much of this transition that we are talking about, that's what they also talk about inner development. They have not been, they have gone only up to mindfulness. The nearest they can lay their hands on is mindfulness, the Western world. What happens is the burden of agreeing, convincing, progressing, everything left to the unit of analysis becomes an individual now. Therefore, a very generic set of, we must still try. I agree with you, we must try. And if there are people who are talking about it, I would like to join that group. We can put things together and see whether we can still get a few, at least some ideas of how to do the how to part of it. I am also constantly thinking about it. Honestly, I don't know how to sort of, the inner world is a slightly different experiential kind of a platform, actually.
Yeah. In fact, now I'm very conscious because I'm very much, if you go up to our website and if you see our communication, I'm very much into the power of 3. So everything is bucketed into three concepts. But now I'm, in the last few months, I've been telling my colleagues also and saying that we have to now start unframeworking ourselves and stop looking for packaging everything into frameworks. We have to move from frameworks to trans frameworks. And we are conscious about the fact that there is no framework. So in fact, one of the things that I'm experimenting is to do an AI generated continuous stream of colors just to, on the website, just to communicate saying that, look, there's beauty in no form. The formlessness is the beauty. So somewhere I think we need to accept that.
No, I feel, Hariji, that sometimes the frameworks can actually be hugely counterproductive. I'll give you an example. I keep telling people that, one of the frameworks is ask questions and clarify. I say, you have questions, don't ask. This is one of the frameworks I have. Never spit your question out. It's extremely important to live with questions. I mean, this is contrary to, you put together a set of questions and then go after answer. I keep telling my students in my satsanga also, you have doubts and questions, never ask. Live with it. When you live with it, the question will transform, question will melt, you'll get an answer. That stays much deeper with you than spitting out the question and getting an answer from a guru or sort of a thing. So sometimes some of these frameworks I feel can itself be counterproductive to the whole journey actually. So that's why the confusion is actually.
No, in fact, very rightly, you're such a beautiful, this is something I've imbibed today. If you go back to our Shravanam Mananam Nididhyasanam framework, it is exactly the same thing, that Mananam part of it, that questioning part of it, constantly questioning. And then at some point in time, that question will melt away. And then if you you can ask your guru, but then you move to a Nididhyasanam phase. So I think that S&M framework itself is also, it is not an eureka and is a solution. It is a process. And that's very, very beautifully said. Stop asking questions. And
have questions and then keep deeply reflecting on it.
Reflecting on it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Any questions, Saji?
So I'll quickly, there are some chats, I will very quickly go through them. I actually started typing, then I realized there was this Titiksha versus Stita Prajnata, are they similar is one question. It appears to me that actually one leads to the other, I would say, rather. In the sense, developing a great sense of Titiksha enables an individual to achieve Stita Prajnata. So I think one moderates into the other is what I think possibly the way I look at it. There's another one, good cause is important. How to fight the greed out in the corporate world for leaders. I think the only way we can fight greed out of in the corporate world is to very actively coach them that, as I was alluding to in the lecture, that slightly loosening the vice-like grip that we have in what is in it for me will dramatically transform an individual's experience of himself and his sense of satisfaction. I think this is the investment we have to make. We need to coach, because we are coaching our leaders with the Western paradigm for everything, ask what is in it for me kind of a thing. Therefore, if we can do an antidote of that, I think the greed will exist, but it will sort of dissipate to an extent that it doesn't come in the way is what I feel. That is what I think about that. Play of Swabhava and Swadharma in inspirational leadership. Certainly it is there. I think that's why Krishna in the third triplet of Bhagavad Gita is all about Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Our Swabhava and our Swadharma are a function of our vasanas and the kind of psychological construct we are, which is what the Trigunas are making us and so on. So they do moderate, and the very fact that I am aware of this connection possibly would mean that I will start changing this dial called Sattva, Rajas and Tamas in a way that my Swabhava and Swadharma will also undergo a bit of a transitional change is what I feel actually. So there's another question that I see here. Thank you. These are some of the questions I think in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Mahadevan. And in fact, in our parlance, what's in it for me is for us what's the avidya kshetra kind of a stance. That's the like avidya is that I am so separate. So what is the gain or where am I getting threatened is a normal human stance from an egoic stance. Whereas, as you said, dharma becomes where the interconnectedness. In fact, one of the, as I was mentioning in our co-evolved cohort, one of the persons said, from avidya kshetra to dharma kshetra movement is from I to we. So in avidya kshetra, the focus is I and me. Whereas in the dharma kshetra, the focus is we and more, or the world at large kind of thing. So the beauty of equanimity, the interconnectedness, and also you said the dharma has to capture us. That's very interesting. It's not that you go seeking dharma. If dharma takes over, then obviously something else really happens. And it's all quantum shifts. So from avidya to dharma kind of thing, we see as a quantum shift. So like any electron, it has to gain that much energy to move to the next. So I think that much psycho-spiritual energy to move to the next. Is there any question which has come up?
I wanted to ask a little bit about the Swabhava and the Swadharma part of it. This whole process of discovery of your Swabhava and Swadharma, it seems to me, especially in our society, where the parents play a big role in your career choices, independent of your talent and your aptitude. We sort of everybody goes to the engineering, and the discovery of the need for your Swabhava and Swadharma is actually coming quite late in life. It's no longer coming in at the early age. It's coming in, at mid-career, where you've already gone into a career which is not your natural self. So in that sense, I feel this emphasis on this Swabhava, discovering your aptitude, and then discovering your likes and dislikes. Then this Swadharma is an outcome of that discovery of your aptitude and your likes and dislikes. then that's Swadharma is an outcome. This framework, again, it is an ongoing thing. What I'm noticing amongst a lot of people that I interact with, a lot of my colleagues who are heads for different verticals, they are so passionate about that particular domain or the particular medium. You can clearly see, but while their day job is something else, but they're clearly passionate about that work that they're doing. And this comes at a stage where they have discovered their aptitude quite late in life. And that's the other problem of the current education system.
Very true. Actually, I must tell you that this whole idea of Subhava and Swadharma requires, I mean, an analogy will help. You know, imagine I put a 5-bedroom beautiful mansion I built, and I stepped out into the balcony, into the portico outside, and then started watching the traffic going outside the road all the time, 24/7. Now I don't really know what is there in the first room, what is there. But I'm now sitting in the front portico and looking at the traffic on the road. The moment I turn inside and go inside, then I know how to make a good use of whatever the infrastructure that I have. This is the problem that we have actually faced now. Swabhava and Swadharma, there's an opportunity for it is only when the individual turns the attention a little inward. As you say, it has, for many of us, it has happened by accident, or as some crisis threw upon us, we started becoming reflective. I think this is a serious matter of training. I think when these kids are growing, there must be a great emphasis on training them on self-reflection, training them that there is a world inside. If they become reflective of what they are, they very quickly are aware of what their strengths and likes and dislikes are. As you say, now since that is not happening, somebody tells me you have to do engineering, or somebody throws something at it, we walk, and they discover it at the age of 30, 35. Which is probably not a very efficient way of doing it. I must tell you, I met a person. I went to one of my relatives' house, and painting of Sharada going on there etched on a glass. One boy was working on it. He went at 8:30 p.m., left that place. I asked my relative, who is this boy? What is he doing? He said he is an engineer in Infosys. 6 months of work. He comes every day at 6 o'clock in the evening, and up to 8:30 he is doing his painting. Then I smiled at him and said, this painting is keeping his job. The job is not keeping his painting, I told actually. Exactly what you are saying. Looks like we are looking at it the other way. In inefficiency we are trying to find, and in the process, I think half of us are destroyed in the suboptimal path on which we are traveling. This has to be a matter of serious training when the child is growing. That self-reflection is an important element of Vyaktitva Vikasa. Somewhere we need to, I don't know in which educational system we will have to do it. In our new curriculum forum, we have said a few things like this. Hopefully some of them will be picked up. I guess, I do not know.
Yeah, somebody says Samagra Vikasam, one of the
Yes, Samagra Vikasa. Yes,
Samagra Vikasa. I think it well captures that.
Yes.
Yeah, Professor Mahadevan, we will not hold you any further. We know that you have got a session coming up. Class coming up.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was so illuminating, and even the question and answer session, some of your examples are so revealing and so practical. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I am blessed and privileged to be along with you. You're all, great people trying to make a difference, and I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Namaste.